Yeah, it's really exciting. We are building a country on the internet to give people the chance to choose their citizenship. The simple fact that it's really unfair today, the fact that you're born in a country will determine the opportunities that you have access to your whole life, that will determine where you can go or you can't go, what kind of infrastructure you have access to, what kind of life you will have access to.
Welcome to Travel Matters, the official podcast of TBEX. Here are your hosts, the Radio Vagabond, Palle, and TBEX CEO, Rick Calvert.
Welcome to Travel Matters. Hi, Rick.
Hi, Palle.
I see you with the dog now.
Yeah, he likes to hang out here under my desk.
The new Viking dog. and you told me that he's settling in and becoming part of the family?
He is. Him and the two cats get along good. Him and the other dog are still working on it a little bit, but they'll get it.
So, 2 kids and 2 dogs now?
2 kids, 2 dogs, 2 cats.
2 wives?
Only 1 wife.
Yeah, so you told me that it was a bit of an adventure. We talked briefly when we had Rolf on the line last week, but you went into some bit of an adventure driving in the mountains.
Well, Bjorn, our new dog, had more of an adventure than me. He had a 5-week trip from Alaska to northern Idaho, where we picked him up, a town called Kuskia, Idaho. So even if you've gone to Idaho, you've probably never been to Kuskia, which is in northern Idaho, in the mountains in the middle of nowhere. And you can take main highways most of the way, Highway 84 and the Highway 55. But at the very end, there's Route 12, which is a 2-lane highway. But for some reason, Google, and it's done this to me twice, once coming from Montana this way and this time going up, thinks it's the best way to send you through a bunch of potato farms in the middle of nowhere on this platform, and then on a road called Lamb Grade, which is hairpin switchbacks on a 2-lane road, with a very narrow 2-lane road with no guardrails, looking over the cliff, and it's probably 1,000 feet or more down, which I love. I love that stuff, but my wife hates that stuff. And that was... So
she was like on the floor with her eyes closed. It's like, oh, Rick, don't drive so close.
I'm going to kill you when this is over.
I love it too. I love, it's probably because I come from such a flat country, Denmark, but I love driving in the mountains, and I just did some road tripping in both Azerbaijan and Georgia, going into some stunning landscapes. It was really, really great.
Well, this is beautiful country. It's some of the most beautiful mountains I've ever seen in my life. And I would definitely say, if you ever find yourself in Idaho, or if you're looking for what people kind of envision as the great American outdoors, the mountains, the drive from Missoula, Montana to McCall, Idaho, on the back route, you got to go through Lolo Hot Springs, is some of the most beautiful, remote country I've ever seen. And I would highly recommend it if you like those kind of drives. You're along the Salmon River and the Snake River next to the highway. It's just majestic, beautiful scenery.
Yeah. We're about to dive into the interviews that you made in Lafayette. As we talked about in the latest episode, we have a lot coming up in the next coming weeks. I wasn't able to be in Lafayette because I was in Armenia for another travel festival. But if you haven't heard our episode from last week where we spoke to Rolf Potts, the Vagabonding author, and now he's written a new book called The Vagabond's Way, go back and listen to that. But I'm looking down over the list of upcoming guests. You were super productive, and it did, like 14, 15 interviews. So there's a lot of stuff coming up, and I, for one, can't wait to hear it. I haven't heard everything yet, but you did a good job.
Well, thank you. Thank you. We had a lot of interesting people to talk to, so I wanted to get to them, as many of them as I could while we were there.
In the first one here today from Lafayette, we have Ducote and Ines Boutamagia. I don't know if that was right.
That's pretty good. I think it's Boutamagia. I think you've got that.
Boutamagia.
Yeah.
You just have to sound convincing when you say it. Boutamagia. And she's from with SafetyWings, and not only are they having insurance for travelers, they also have an interesting project about setting up a virtual country, as far as I understand.
Virtual country with their own. Is that right? Yes, with their own passport. And I think it's El Salvador that they said they're talking to now about dual citizenship with their passport and El Salvador, and with plans to do that with other countries as well.
Yeah. Really, really interesting.
So it's a really, really interesting idea. So hopefully we got your last name correctly, Ines, and we apologize if we didn't get it quite correct, but I did enjoy the conversation with her in Lafayette.
Let's dive in.
All right. We're joined now by Jay Ducote, the one and the only. Did I pronounce that right, Jay?
Yeah, so you do it like proper French. The Cajun French, or now Americanized version, is more just Ducote.
Okay.
Not Ducote.
Do you have a preference?
I just say Ducote.
Okay.
But it is that hard E on the end.
Okay.
A lot of people would just say Ducote. They'd let the E make the O hard and then silent E.
Yeah.
But yeah, the French would still pronounce the E somehow.
I try to give it an effort, to pronounce people's names correctly.
Yeah.
I don't always get it right.
No. I like the Ducote.
Yeah. My friend E-Rock on TikTok, he's, showing us all how to pronounce things in Cajun.
Yeah.
And so...
a lot of weird words around here.
A lot of weird words around here. Like, how do you...
and, Boudin and stuff's the easy ones.
Yeah, Boudin is easy.
Étouffée.
Yeah, étouffée is a little bit harder.
A little bit.
Especially when you reading it out.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. So... you gave a keynote this morning.
I did. Thank you for having me.
Did a great job. But this was not your first TBEX, you said.
No. So I actually was at TBEX Toronto in 2013. I had to go back through my notes and figure out what year it was. I was thinking 6 or 7 years ago. It was 9 years ago. And that was really fairly early on in my blogging and travel career. I started my blog in 2009, started my weekend food and drink radio show in 2011, but really in 2013 I was still just figuring a lot of stuff out and trying to learn who I was in this space and what it could become. And I think TBEX was one of those turning points for me because I met so many people in the industry and learned so much about what other people were doing to be able to make a living at this, or to just kind of take that hobby and turn it into something on the side, whether it was just more of a hobby or truly a side income. And it doesn't have to be professional for everybody. I think that gets lost sometimes. Some people need to keep their day job and create travel content, food content as a hobby.
Chris Christensen is a perfect example, the amateur traveler. He's been one of the most popular travel podcasters for over a decade, but he's got a day job.
Yeah.
And he's at TBEX all the time, and he developed this Blogger Bridge product because he's a coder. That's his day job. So he developed this thing for other creators to use.
Okay.
But yeah, he keeps that day job.
Yeah.
And he's the amateur traveler.
There you go. Yeah. And that's a good way to do it for a lot of people, because then it's a lot less pressure to have to monetize everything. You can do it for the love of it and not make every decision based on, is it going to pay your bills or not?
So you shared with us this morning that you did make a conscious decision that cooking and travel kind of goes hand in hand a little bit. Food, drink, and cooking is what you wanted to do with your life. And you wanted to figure out, how do I make this my career?
Right.
you've had a lot of success. You were on Food Star.
Yeah.
You were on Beat Bobby Flay.
Yeah, I took him down.
You took down, which is pretty awesome. Do you know what the percentage is of people who beat Bobby Flay?
He wins about 70 to 75% of the episodes.
So he's pretty good.
So yeah, I mean he's pretty good. You know,
I saw him lose one.
7 out of 10 lose.
Wow.
At the dish that is their signature dish that they're challenging him to, he still wins 70% of the episodes.
Wow.
Which is a pretty astounding number, really.
So do you think you sandbagged him by doing a crawfish broil?
Yeah. The crawfish boil. As soon as I said it, and then the cameras kind of stopped down while they bring the ingredients out and stuff, and they reposition the cameras, and he looked at me and he was like, "That's a good call.
Yeah.
I've never done this before."
It's a very specific thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He had eaten crawfish before, but he had never cooked it himself. You know, he'd had it at a restaurant or maybe even somebody's backyard. I don't know.
Do you think that's harder than if you would have gave him etouffee as a challenge?
Yeah. I mean, I think
because he could have covered up in some sauce.
Correct. I mean, you know, an etouffee is a smothered crawfish tail in some way, a crawfish etouffee anyway. And yeah, there's a way to make it more traditional Cajun etouffee or something, but I think he could have found a way to still just use his cooking expertise to make a really flavorful dish.
Yes.
A crawfish boil and presenting a dish that still comes across as a crawfish boil.
Yes. There's a right way.
Yeah.
And there's the other way.
Yeah. But you know, fortunately I won, and then got to throw a big viewing party, but a lot of my colleagues in Louisiana they took kind of the opposite view. They were just like, man, that was really risky, because what if he won? Like, what if he beat you
at your home game?
Like, you couldn't have come home if you lost to
embarrassment to us all.
Up there.
Grandpa could have beat Bobby Flay doing that.
If you went up to Brooklyn and lost to Bobby Flay at a crawfish boil, like, what kind of Louisiana cook are you?
Yeah.
And, you know, I really think Louisiana food is just one of his kryptonites. I just don't think he has a lot of experience with Louisiana food.
Yeah.
So much of his experience with Bobby at the Grill and his Southwest flavors and all that, and then fine dining and his New York background and everything, and he's an Irish guy himself. But if it's traditional French or if it's Southwestern or Mexican in any way, or refined in any way, really, he's got an advantage. He's Bobby Flay. But there's a lot of Louisiana food that I think really he just doesn't have as much experience, and a lot of it is just a little bit more of a rustic cuisine that you have a chance to beat him at.
It's a very, very specific cuisine. And again, one bite, it's right or it's wrong.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It's pretty obvious.
Yeah.
All right. So I'm curious. You've had a lot of success with cooking, all right? So you made this decision. This is what I'm going to do. You're a creator. You got your radio show. But I didn't hear you mention any formal cooking training.
No.
You're doing this with recipes and I guess skills that you learned just growing up.
Yeah. So a lot of it was growing up. A lot of it truly was throwing tailgate parties and cooking for hundreds of people at pregame parties for LSU football, and just learning how to cook by feeding the masses as poor college kids. And then a lot of it really came once I started blogging. In 2009, when I started the blog, it started more heavily as a restaurant, not review as a critic, but as an enthusiast. I was celebrating local restaurants.
This is why I like this place.
Yeah, and I was blogging about restaurants that I ate at, mostly in Baton Rouge, and then anywhere that I traveled. I was like, well, this is fun. I'm going to write about these restaurants in New Orleans or in Lafayette or in Houston. I'm going to write about this restaurant. Anywhere that I ate and drank is really Bite and Booze was that blog, and it was really just a blog about everything I ate and drank. And I really started to get into craft beer, and then that evolved into wine and whiskey and all sorts of other things.
You had good timing on the craft beer side.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it was a lot of fun because it was right there at the boom of so many of these different trends that have come up in the food world, and so much of that was just exploring my own taste buds at that time. But the more that I wrote about food, the more that I got curious about it, and the more that I did research on my own and read about the history of it, the culture behind it. Why do people around the world treat these same ingredients so differently? Why are we picking up coconut flavors in Caribbean food and in Thai food and in Indian food, but it's all different? And you know, what is it about how these different spices, you know, and then I'm studying spice trade, and then like the political science student in me got excited because I found something that I really should have been studying when I was studying politics, when I was, you know, just studying basic American government. It's like, man, I should have been like looking at politics through the lens of the spice trade and the tea trade and the coffee trade and the sugar trade, and I probably would have been a way better student.
That East India Company.
Yeah, absolutely. That started to fascinate me, and so then I found something that I was truly curious about, and I just ran with it. But also, as I was doing that, I started cooking a lot more. I started getting intrigued by some dish.
And experimenting with.
And then I would say, well, I'm going to try to make a curry. Yeah. I'm going to make an East India curry.
Yeah.
I'm going to make a Thai curry. I'm going to see why they're different, because I'm going to go get these spices and these coconut milks and these different varieties of rice, and I'm going to cook it, and I'm going to blog about it. And I learned a lot of these things just by doing that kind of stuff.
You mentioned in your talk about learning from your failures.
Yeah.
So did you have some big cooking failures in your early days when you were starting? I mean, you said you learned by doing at tailgate parties, but did sometimes you did a cookout at the tailgate party and people were, man, Jay, you burnt this one.
Yeah. So, I mean, I have definitely burnt dishes. I've scorched some pots. Fortunately, I don't think I've ever had a major like catering event where I've been charging people or been paid to cook something that I've just ruined something to the point of messing up the dinner and having to refund people's money.
But I'm sure by the time you're getting paid to do it, you knew what you were doing.
A lot more, but a lot of my experience came from almost just putting myself in that pressure cooker. After I did MasterChef, which was actually the failure that I talked about on stage, and not making it past the first round, and Gordon Ramsay, kind of yelling at me, and
he said, "I remember you said you look like a chef.
You look like a chef. You talk like a chef. Let's hope you cook like a chef."
Yes.
It's like, yes, sir. I hope I do. But I didn't.
But hold on. Even though, and this is interesting too, even though you didn't get past that round because he didn't like your bell pepper.
Yeah.
He did like your main dish.
Yeah. The venison's cooked perfectly, but the bell pepper, it's bland. What a shame. What a shame. And then he walked off.
You were so close.
That was my Gordon Ramsay experience.
Yeah.
I really felt like I was so close.
But what you said about when you started blogging about it and you started researching those spices and where those traditions came from and how the blends all came together, there's a saying, I think a lot of people know it now, you do something for 10,000 hours, you'll get good at it.
Yeah.
But there's also a blog iteration of that if you write about something for an extended period of time, you will become an expert in that thing.
Right.
So that really upped your cooking game.
I absolutely think so, because I really kind of became a student of cultural food, certainly around Louisiana, but then around the American South, around Texas barbecue, around ingredients that came into Louisiana through the African slave trade or through the Caribbean and the sugar trade with Louisiana and in colonial days, and all the different influences on the food that we have here. But then that led me to looking at food around the world, and I think by studying it and then by writing about it as well, and then by cooking, it has led me to be able to get where I am today.
There's another level. You touched on it a little bit. You're writing about it to educate other people about it.
Yep.
And to be able to do that, you've got to learn the material even better yourself.
Absolutely.
So when you start to teach people something, it makes you learn it at an even deeper level.
The best way to learn something is to teach it.
Yeah.
I taught high school math for 2 years. I know algebra way better because I taught high school kids algebra for 2 years.
Yep.
It really is the best way to learn something, is
because it makes you analyze why you're doing what you're doing.
And there's questions
And be able
that you
to convey
wouldn't,
it.
Yeah, questions that you wouldn't think of that somebody's going to ask you, and then you better know how to find that answer. And then you learn as you go. Sometimes, not everybody's a content expert right away at anything.
Yep.
You have to put in the time. You have to put in the research.
Practice.
Yeah, that's right. Whatever it is.
And so let's talk about the radio show real quick. I know you got to go. You got some other appointments. Where can people hear you on the radio?
So Monday through Friday, 4 to 6 p.m. Central Time on Talk 107.3. It's out of Baton Rouge, Louisiana. Talk1073.com streams it. We're live on the Talk 107.3 Facebook page. There's also the J. Ducote Facebook page that I share it to every episode. And then there's lots of ways to get the streaming audio as well. Talk1073.com. There's a Talk 107.3 app, or like the TuneIn radio app can find the Talk 107.3 station out of Baton Rouge and can find it live there.
And the restaurant, if people want to go to your restaurant?
If you're in Baton Rouge, Government Taco, it's the abbreviated government, like Government Mule, GOV''T, Taco. It's on Government Street, which is not abbreviated. Government Street in Baton Rouge was just the capital city, and that's where the name came from. And my degrees in political science finally being used in something that everybody can agree on, which is tacos.
Very good.
Yeah.
Well, Jay, thank you again for joining us. Thanks for giving a talk today.
My pleasure.
Glad to have you back at TBEX, and looking forward to seeing you again at another one in the future.
Absolutely.
Thanks, Jay.
For having me.
You're listening to Travel Matters, the official podcast of TBEX, the home of travel media.
Okay. We are back at TBEX Lafayette, North America 2022.
You're listening to
and our guest
Travel
is
Matters,
Ines
the official
Boutamagia.
podcast of TBEX.
Yes,
The
Boutamagia.
future of
With
travel
SafetyWing,
media. You're listening
one of our
to
sponsors here at the show.
Travel Matters.
Thanks for joining
the
us, Ines.
official podcast
Yes,
of TBEX.
thank you for having me here.
The future of travel media.
Tell us a little bit about SafetyWing.
Mm-hmm.
What do you do?
So what we do with SafetyWing is we're building a global safety net. What it means is that we are building every layer of a safety net that you would usually have access to through your home country. So, for example, as an American citizen, you expect the country to provide you with healthcare, with pensions, with protection of income, and all these products we are rebuilding on a global scale. So without any borders. And we started with travel medical insurance, Nomad Insurance. We have a health product available already called Nomad, called Remote Health. And we're slowly building the rest. So by end of the year, we'll have remote disability on and live. We already have a beta version of Remote Doctor, so basically consulting doctors all over the world while traveling. And we'll have also remote pensions coming up soon, protection of income, remote therapy.
Okay,
so
remote therapy as well?
Yeah, remote therapy.
Okay. And how long has SafetyWing been around?
SafetyWing's been founded in 2019.
Okay.
And that's when we launched the first product, Nomad Insurance.
Okay. Mm-hmm. And how many countries is SafetyWing available in?
The great thing about the product that we're building is that it's available in more than 185 countries.
Okay.
So
most of the world.
Most of the world, exactly. If you take Nomad Insurance, for example, it's like you can purchase travel medical insurance regardless of where you're actually going. You can give us the information about where you're going so we can produce a visa letter for you to go there. But it doesn't really matter. You can switch destinations. You can purchase while already traveling. It doesn't matter where you are. The importance is that you're actually covered against any emergency, like travel-related or health-related.
Very good. Mm-hmm. And so you're here at TBEX connecting with creators.
Absolutely.
Why?
Yes, because creators are the way we organically spread the word about our product.
Okay.
It's actually amazing how much creators have been, at the forefront of the growth that we've seen with within SafetyWing and with all our products. So We have this policy in the company that we don't do any ads. We just want people to know about us through word of mouth, because they hear about us through other satisfied customers who like us and who thought it was worth sharing with their friends. So we try to make the product so good that people share it with their friends. And the way we try to do it, and with content creators, is we have an affiliate marketing program where we pay them a commission for putting a good word out there about our product.
Yep.
And that's why we're here, talking about the, future of the company.
So for creators, obviously, they'd be interested in your affiliate program. And how much does the affiliate program pay? Is it a flat percentage? Is it a per customer? Or is it vary? How does that work?
Yeah, it's very straightforward. The program pays a 10% commission on the sales that go through your affiliate link. And what's really interesting about it is that we're trying to do more than a classic affiliate program. So we have a real community that's built around it. So there's opportunity for you as a content creator to network with other travel bloggers. We have more than 1,000 active bloggers per month there. So there's more than there's a fair amount of really niche knowledgeable workers, travel bloggers who are worth connecting with. And the way we do that is we share content courses that we record with these other creators. So we really try to lift you up and to teach you how to monetize and how to make the best out of the content that you put out there. We organize team retreats with them where we invite the top performing ambassadors. So we really are trying to build this community, this big network of travel content creators who believe in what we're trying to build.
That's great. Is there an average sale price for the insurance that you have, or is it too difficult to say that?
Yeah, actually one of the major differentiator that we have about our product is that the price is super transparent. And that's something pretty rare for travel medical insurance. So everything is displayed on the website. The pricing is transparent. The coverage is transparent. And it's there's brackets of pricing that depends only on your age. So it doesn't matter where you're from or where you're going. The only parameter is your age. And it starts at $42 a month. So, for the lower age bracket. And, there's 4 age brackets. That's it. It's as simple as that.
Sounds easy. Super
easy.
Okay. Is there any other common questions that creators would ask you about your products at SafetyWing?
Yeah, so we do get asked about can I purchase while traveling? Can I go back to my home country? I think these are coverage related questions. The answer to those is that we try to make the product really tailored to the digital nomad niche. So people who travel long term, which is really interesting for content creators as well, because they get recurring revenue with the purchases. On average, customers stay with us for 6 months. So we sell pretty long contracts.
Okay.
And they can purchase while traveling. And we do cover short visits to home country. So that's we really try to make it tailored to this nomad niche that's already on the road, that purchases insurance while traveling, that needs to stop, that purchases insurance while traveling, that needs sometimes to go back for 2 weeks at home to pay a visit to their family and goes back on the road.
Yep. So did I hear correctly? Somebody told me you guys are creating a virtual passport?
Yeah.
A virtual country? Yeah, tell me about that.
Yeah, absolutely. That's what I was speaking about earlier in the little workshops. It's really exciting. We are building a country on the internet. And what it means is that we are actually trying to build the digital infrastructure to give people the chance to choose their citizenship. So, we just have we come from a simple the simple fact that it's really unfair today, the fact that you're born in a country will determine the opportunities that you have access to your whole life, that will determine where you can go, where you can't go, what kind of like infrastructure you have access to, what kind of life you will have access to. And we think it's pretty random and unfair. So what we believe is that today, internet and remote work has made the economy completely global. However, the institutions that we live by and that we use still use the national borders that are super hard to cross and completely irrelevant. And thanks to this like global movement that digital nomads and remote workers are at the front of, we are actually entering a new era of like global culture where communities like connect online, where communities, first connect online, build this like global culture, and then, meet offline and build the local structure afterwards. And it's completely relevant to, build something to support these people, this like global workforce. And the, internet and the technology has never been so ready for it. It's the best moment to actually use the blockchain technology to do that. So we have a project, part of SafetyWing. It's called Plumania. It's a non-profit organization that we built. And
what's it called again? Sorry?
It's called Plumania.
Okay.
And you can find more information on plumia.org.
Spell it for us.
Plumia.org.
Yep.
And it's fascinating because it only started with a bunch of people who were super active on Discord. It was a community where we just asked people what they thought about this concept, and people were so engaged, so motivated, and it's still really early stage. And we're building the future of this country on the internet with the help, of our community and with the help of every contributor that wants to contribute. There's still time. We actually are currently launching a little incentive around like producing a piece of art with AI about what your country on the internet looks like. And we are rewarding the best project with a $3,000 cash prize. You can find all this information on Plumia. But yeah, that's like our secret project, if I were to tell it.
Not so secret anymore.
Yeah, we're actually it's
Are
actually
we allowed to release this to tell people?
Absolutely.
Okay.
It's starting to come out of the water and has a lot of engagement. So we're really proud. And even for content creators, it's actually like the best way to engage with their communities because it gives them the space to, share what the country and the internet means for them. How many people are so confused about the question, where are you from? Especially, digital nomads, travel writers who write about this concept all the time. So it gives them the space to share about what it means for them before bringing the product, forward. Like building this really interesting, futuristic view on how we're building the future of human organizations together to their customers and to their audiences.
Well, I really appreciate you joining us and sharing both about SafetyWing and about Plumia.
Plumia, exactly. Thank you.
And thank you for sponsoring TBEX. Thank you for supporting this community of travelers. And we hope to see you again next time.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
See all the links mentioned in this episode in the show notes and on tbexcon.com/podcast.
That's almost it for this episode, but next week we'll be back with 2 interviews more, and one of them is, one of the team, Tim Leffel. What did you talk to Tim about?
I talked to Tim about his journey as a travel blogger, influencer, travel writer, and how he got started doing this. Before Tim was our conference director, he spoke at TBEX numerous times. Mm-hmm. I think 2012 in Keystone, Colorado was the first time. And every time Tim speaks, people come up to me and say, wow, he just has a lot of really great information that he shared that help people with their careers. Yeah. And we talked about how Tim set up a network with other bloggers to be able to kind of sell advertising to sponsors at scale that worked, and several other things. So it was really good to catch up with Tim and kind of hear that backstory for him. And
Tim, like I talked about with Rolf Potts in last week's episode, at the time before I started traveling full time ago, like 7 years ago, when I read Rolf's book for the first time, that's at about the same time that I was really reading a lot of stuff from Tim Leffel, and I feel so privileged that I'm now able to have met him so many times and call him a friend of mine. So he's always got some really interesting things to share. So great that you got to record some stuff.
Yep.
And then another guest next week, JJ Maneke.
JJ Maneke is the new generation of travel creator. He has a YouTube channel. He's based in San Diego. Go Padres. Jay and I were actually sneaking up to look at TVs when we were at the TBEX parties to see how our Padres were doing, and we beat the Mets and we beat the Braves, both 100-win teams. And right now we're playing the Phillies, and we're tied 1-1. And Jay told me if the Padres beat the Dodgers, which was we played that game right before we left Lafayette, that he was going to fly the next day to Atlanta to go watch the Padres play, because everybody assumed that Atlanta would beat the Phillies, but no, the Phillies came out on top. So maybe Jay's headed to Philadelphia right now. I don't know. Maybe he was at the game in San Diego. I'm going to email him today, actually, because we got to play our first 2 home games in the American League Championship Series in San Diego the last 2 days. So it's pretty awesome. Yeah. So for us San Diegans, we're having fun right now.
The Danish man and in the other end of this call have no idea what you're talking about. So, but I'm sure
it's baseball.
Oh, it's baseball.
It's baseball.
Yeah. It's a sport where nothing happens for a long time, and then when something happens, it happens very fast, right?
Yes, and the Padres have not been very good for a very long time. This is the first time we've been this far for 25 years. So it's exciting.
I have been to a baseball game once in my life, and I enjoyed it. And the beers were good, and the hot dogs were good, and I got to see a major league home run. So that was great.
The great thing about baseball, because as you said, it's a slow pace, is you can learn about baseball while you're at the game, because there's plenty of time for somebody to tell you all about it in between pitches.
Yeah, this was in Toronto, and I have a good friend who lives there, Steve, and he brought me to this game. And before, I thought I'm not gonna come in totally blank, having no idea what it's about. So I watched some YouTube videos explaining the game for me, but still, he had so much to share, and I learned so much, and it was really interesting.
The thing, it's a weird thing. The difference between baseball and football. Football, there's action all the time, and guys running into each other on every play. Where baseball is, and it's not that baseball's more mental than football. Football and other sports are mental as well. But there is this space in between the action, like you said, and some people say it's boring. But if you're into it, it's the tension that builds in between each thing. Every pitch, every strike, every ball, every swing. Now the guy's hit the ball and he's running, are they going to stretch it into a double or into a triple? Is a guy going to steal base? There's so many things that you can think about in between every single pitch that's the appeal to people who like baseball. So you got to really, really, really be into it to enjoy it. That makes sense.
I think I understand, and I think if I lived in the U.S. more, I would get into it a lot more. But give me some real football, where you actually play with the foot.
You watch football, right? You watch soccer?
Yeah, soccer, that kind of football. Yeah, I watch that a lot.
So do you root for the Danish national team?
Oh, yeah, and we have a good one this year, and we really have high hopes for the upcoming World Cup this year in December. So that's I can't wait. I can't wait to see how we're going to do.
Good luck. So
next week you speak to JJ Manaki, and I take it that you're not only talking baseball.
No. So we talked about how Jay's progressed as being a creator. So interesting, COVID-19 had a huge influence on his channel because, it's called Jaycation is his YouTube channel. And Jay was, traveling the world, talking about places he went and all the stuff that he did. And then COVID hits and he couldn't go anywhere. So he thought, okay, I'll just focus here locally on San Diego and talk about the things I know and the place where I've lived all my life. Mm-hmm. Meaning Jay. I lived there all my life till recently. Jay's lived there all of his life. And so he focused on a bunch of San Diego places, and his channel blew up during COVID. Yeah. So now he is primarily doing stuff San Diego focused, and he does live streams as well as his pre-recorded stuff. Yeah. And he did a live stream while we were in Lafayette, actually, talking to folks back in San Diego or people interested in San Diego. So it was really interesting to talk to Jay again about this new generation of creators and how it's different for him versus how it was different for you and Tim so many years ago.
Kind of the same thing happened to some Kiwi friends of mine, Dane and Stacy from the YouTube channel Danger and Stacy. They've been traveling around the world doing YouTube videos about their travels around the world, and then when they lockdown hit in New Zealand, they realized, oh my God, so many people have they have been traveling around the world, but not so much in their own country, and they have, if anybody, a lot to share in New Zealand. So they did a lot of videos and a lot of road trips around New Zealand, and I think it was very good for their channel as well.
Absolutely, that happened to a lot of influencers and creators who started focusing on local during COVID, and it was very successful for a lot of them.
Right. So, JJ and Tim Leffel next week on Travel Matters. As always, Rick, nice to see you.
Great to talk to you, Palle. Enjoy your safari.
I will.
This episode of Travel Matters was hosted by TBEX CEO Rick Calvert and Radio Vagabond Palle and produced by radioguru.co.uk. See more about upcoming TBEX events on tbexcon.com. You can follow Palle on the radiovagabond.com.